Alright, so previous minutes, has everybody had a chance to review those? Why am I going back there?
Yeah, hang on.
I was gonna say, I can hear myself talking, so I was confused there for a minute.
That is unusual.
That is. If everybody's had a chance to review the minutes, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I would second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Finances were covered in last night's finance and budget meeting. So
I do have an addition, Mr. Chairman.
to that part.
Yeah, just a statement from Bureau Lawyer, who
Okay.
hired as our interim treasurer. She wanted to let us all know and go on the record that even though there may have been rumors of a lot of money missing, it has been all accounted for except for about $4. So right now we are very satisfied with that. I said, you're not going to spend any more time looking for $4, and she very happily said, we got it. So
Is that, as the opinion of the board, would that be reason and time for acceptance of her resignation letter, which she turned in before she realized how much that was off the first time?
Was she gonna leave that up to us, or was she gonna tell us when she was
I
done?
think she said when
She's
she
done.
got that up to, when she
She's-
got, oh,
She sent us a letter. She
Yeah.
sent all of
Yeah,
us a
no,
letter.
that final
Current-
acceptance was pending on.
Currently, she is still the only signer on the library
There you go.
because
okay,
they're still waiting for the library to give them the minutes of who's supposed to be one of those people on the
okay,
checking account.
okay, so we will leave her in that position until,
Hopefully, I told them just, put
Well,
Maria and Brenda
no.
on it.
It'll be the
Her
library needs
resignation
to get,
is pending on.
yes, the library needs to get their stuff,
yeah,
but it should be in the minutes from this meeting, which is when? When, do you know when their January meeting is, or was?
I do not know.
Okay,
So I don't know if they have those minutes yet or not. I know that's what they've been waiting on, because the checks that were written last week or whatever, Vera had to come up and sign them because she's the only
Okay.
signer.
so what we're saying, Terry, is we can't accept her resignation at this point, because if we did that, she would technically not be a town employee,
right.
and she would be the only signer of the checks. So the library needs to get that information to us so we can
Well,
get.
I'd say that we give the library a deadline
Absolutely,
because we're not gonna continue to have her on
yes, I agree. I mean,
when we've already got a treasurer in place and we don't have the money to
Is-
pay both.
Is Maria's name also going on that?
Yes,
That's Larry, okay,
Maria's name has to go on it.
okay. Hello? Yes, it is. Sorry, I didn't answer that very professionally. This is Josh. Okay, do you have, I'm gonna send you over to our guy that's running our computer system. He can send you a direct invite if you're on your email, I believe. Does that work, Larry?
I can do that as well.
Okay, hang on, I'll send you over to him and he'll send you an invite directly.
Which Larry is it?
Larry Jarvis.
Josh, did he say that the link was not working?
That's, yes.
Hi, Larry.
Oh, I thought you were sending it down, sorry.
I am going to send you an
Who?
email if I can get your
Cambridge
email
guy had the
address.
same problem.
Okay. Well, if we send him,
that's
so,
why when you call him, yeah.
yep, we'll give him the
Okay,
direct
what's your
line.
email address?
Can't he just type it in there and send it over?
No,
She has it already.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I misunderstood how that works. So, we are setting a deadline of this month. They need to have somebody on the books, able to sign checks, so that Vera can be taken off. I don't
Cause
know.
we'd accept, I would
Oh.
say we can make a motion
Spell-
to accept
spell
her
Jarvis for me, Larry.
resignation as of
As when the new signer's on there.
by the next meeting.
I pretty much told him, told Vera to
And
go
what's
to the
the,
bank, get her name off, give her
just
the
at
minutes with
jarvisfarms.com?
that Maria's the treasurer, and put Brenda on.
That works too.
Then
Yep,
It's
.com.
done.
Okay, give me a minute.
Yep.
I'm not gonna hang up on you,
Let's do
okay?
that too then. Yeah, get Maria on there, have Vera taken off, Tammy, I'm assuming you're getting all this. Okay, that way we can accept Vera's resignation. And we can accept that, you're right, Terry, at the next meeting.
The
And
next regular meeting.
next regular meeting, which will be the 24th, first order of business. So. Any others on the finance world or just that?
Just that one.
Okay. Kathy, what do you got for us?
Well, we all know the bill that went through the House and the Senate about this year's town meeting on the choices you can do. Did anybody read the link that Brenda sent?
No.
I didn't see the link that Brenda sent.
It was in the body of the email, it was the very first thing. There was a link there.
Well, I'm not saying you
can't
didn't
do
get it, I'm
emails.
just.
Alright, anyways,
Might
pretty
not.
much you have two choices. The choices are you can do Australian ballot like we
You should
did
have that
last year
momentarily.
For the budget?
for the
Let me
budget,
know that you got it.
for
okay?
this year only.
Okay.
The other choice is you can postpone town meeting because all of our budget stuff is off the floor. You can postpone it to a later date and hopefully, you know, everything's like hunky-dory.
Mhm.
Numbers keep going up, that's
Yep.
up to you. You gotta decide sooner rather than later though.
Is that?
We would still have voting going on if you postpone it because we do have Australian ballots, which are the officers in the school budget, so.
Which has to happen that day anyway. Which means if we don't go to Australian ballot on the budget, we have to have another day,
A town meeting,
another town meeting.
but
which
there's no
means-
ballot votes. It's not something that has to be done all day. There's no polls open, it's
Okay.
all off the floor.
So do we, in order to make this, and maybe Brenda has the answer, in order to do this, would we just need a motion at this meeting to go one way or the other?
I believe so. 'Cause it's a vote of the legislative
You
body.
Okay,
Whichever you choose doesn't matter to me. We can also do a mass mailing of absentee
Yeah, that's the one
ballots.
you should jump right on that
But
one.
5-year statistics, we have less than a third of the people
So
who
does
ever
it end
vote
in
at town meeting.
09?
1,000 people on our checklist, we
Email it
get
or
300 if we're lucky.
yep.
Let me recheck that, I'll
So
send it right out
last
to
year
you,
was the
okay?
only time for
They're
town meeting
asking me
that we had
questions and I can't do this
138 absentee ballot people hearing.
Yeah, 138.
The year before was only 25.
Okay.
So anybody can get
where
an
it's gotta go.
absentee
It's okay,
ballot
hang up
for
on that.
any reason. Well, they can start calling tomorrow,
Right.
so.
Yep. So,
I would not
If-
do the mass mailing.
if everybody was able to hear Kathy, I'm not sure. Absentee ballots are available. If you call, you'll get put on a list and they can be mailed to you, just like any other year. I know what I am personally feeling, but, I'll put it in a motion and we can put it to a vote. I make a motion that we move this year's budget to Australian ballot for the 2022 budget vote.
I'll second that.
So no in person.
No in person. Everything would be on the ballot. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, so this year, everything is going on a ballot.
Okay.
I
And
usually plug tonight.
one thing that cannot go on this year's ballot, this article cannot go on, you cannot ask to go to Australian ballot for the budget this year.
For next year, we can.
I don't know about next year. They don't want towns to get rid of town meetings,
Right.
and that's what happens.
So
But
that,
for
that's,
this year, it clearly states in here, this year you cannot put that question on the warning.
Oh,
So
so we
we
can't ask
We
if
can't
next
ask,
year.
that's one of the questions we had that
Yes.
was going on the
So
ballot.
you cannot this year, you
We
cannot put it
cannot,
on here.
we cannot during this vote, correct?
Correct.
We could have a separate ballot in November that would ask that for the following
You
March.
would actually have to probably contact the Secretary of State's office on that.
Yep.
Or because someone did it this past November and apparently that's not what the legislature did this for. So,
Well, we all know why they do things.
so, but you got time to worry about that.
Okay,
Secondly, are we gonna have a 30 question ballot again this year, or are we gonna condense?
my, again,
Well, are we still
personal,
gonna do town meeting day?
there would be no town meeting, everything would be Australian ballot. So what she's asking now is, are we going to itemize
I thought just the
everything?
budget would be Australian ballot.
It is, but what else do we vote off from the floor?
Don't we do like your dog catcher, all that? We're
Town
gonna put
officers,
all of that on
We
the
did
ballot?
last year.
just like we did last year, Jared, right?
It would just be write-ins if nobody runs. Yep,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's why last year's counting during town meeting took longer
Well,
than
because we then had all those positions that,
that were unfilled,
Nobody
or you had less
filled
than
out
the
a
right
petition.
number of votes, yes.
Well, I know there's one that you don't have to do anymore, town agent. It was
Excellent.
repealed a few years ago. You didn't
Excellent.
have to ask for it.
Okay. Yes, so there would be no town meeting to go over all that stuff. The question that's being posed now is, do we have every single line item?
Like we did
Like,
last year.
well, like what we've been going over the past two budget meetings, is every one of those out there? Or do we have it as one lump sum and two informational budget meetings beforehand, correct? There has to be two?
No, there only needs to be one.
There only needs to be one, okay. Which could be Zoom, or if we need, we could probably talk to the school and see if we could hold it there, since,
I would do it over Zoom, otherwise you might as well have your town meeting.
It was the
You-
same, it was
you-
the same
A group
argument.
of
we
people
had
is what
before.
they're trying to get rid of.
Right.
Unless you wanna do it a later date.
That's just exactly what you did last year.
Yeah.
You had the information
so do we,
meeting,
so
and
do
then
we
you had
wanna
the
go
ballot,
to
and that was it.
one item for the budget, which would have the lump sum, the general and the road together? Or do you wanna itemize everything out and you vote yay or nay on every item, just like we would at town meeting day?
Everybody has the option to read the town report. All that information is broken down in detail in the town report.
Right, and I'm not saying we
The
wouldn't give them.
totals are,
some of them
in
I think
plain,
should be,
the
broken
totals
away.
are plain.
Mhm.
I think that we should condense this as much as possible.
Yeah,
So you're not saying all one, but condense some of it? Terry, I
Um,
think is saying the same thing, not all in one, but definitely could be condensed.
I mean,
We
and
need to
yes,
condense
I
it,
think
yeah.
those,
this is more food for thought. It doesn't have, that part doesn't have to be decided today, cause I know
Okay.
you got things
Yep.
going. It's just, cause I gave you all the other towns around what their budgets is. It's like a big number and it's all broken down.
Below, yeah.
Is, this is all for the general, this is all for the road, this is for the library. It's like what the school does, so.
I think that stuff is fine to have as one, but I think when you get to the Humane Society, all those little
Oh, no,
entities
some of those
that ask,
towns actually break those down. That's a separate question.
that's what I'm saying. Those
Yeah.
are the things
Yeah.
I would want voted separately, not in our general.
Yeah, cause last year we had it was like one article, but it was yes or no for,
And that was,
Right.
and that's the discussion we
So-
would need to
So
have.
for instance, last year we had 11 separate
Yeah,
votes under that item.
yeah.
which is
Jack, pass these down too, would you? This is the,
treasurer verbiage.
yeah, that would be the article.
Do you have any others?
I don't think so at this point.
Okay,
I wanna know when you're working on the warning, The last possible day for that to be posted is the 30th. It's a Sunday. I'm not coming up to make sure it's signed and posted on a Sunday. Would like it by that Thursday. It's what?
28th.
27th.
Yeah, that's right. We're
So-
hoping to have
February
everything.
or January? January 27th?
January.
January.
We're hoping to have everything nailed down. We
Has to
have
be
a,
posted 30 days and town meeting's on the 1st of March this
we
year.
have
so.
a budget meeting on the 19th, and then our regular meeting, which we hope to have everything nailed down, ready to go on the 24th.
Yeah.
Like ready to go to be signed?
Ready to go to you.
That is our hope.
That is our hope.
Already signed or already typed up?
But then,
I'll have to touch base with Tammy on that one.
Big
It'll really depend on what happens the 19th.
Do
If
you
we
want
get
me
through,
to come in on the 19th if you're gonna be discussing that?
if that would be helpful.
Yes.
If you have the time, yes.
That's next
worst
week.
case scenario, if everything's not nailed down the 24th, we've already established that we might have to have another meeting after that. If we didn't reach that,
Just to
like,
come in and
just to
sign
come
it.
in and to sign.
I
Yep.
mean, we've had to do that in the past.
Yep.
so.
Yep. So,
Alright, I am done then,
all right.
unless you have any questions.
I don't believe so. I think we are all set. Tammy, do you have the manila folder with the ambulance contracts? Sorry, I didn't grab that. If we wanna,
I've got the numbers here.
yeah, I know.
Actually, I
I
have
got
one more
Innisford's right
question.
here.
Did you take that out of the thing, or did you make a copy?
No, it's one Larry gave us when you came.
Oh, okay, okay.
So people who run for office that we always do Australian ballot for are doing a petition. But these that we're doing off the floor, do you want me to have Tammy call them on Thursday and just have them, if they want to run to fill out a consent to be on the ballot form?
That would,
That
that would
way,
be
if we
helpful.
have a name, at least we won't have as many
Yeah.
write-ins.
That would be, yes. I
So,
think that would
as far
streamline
as I
everything.
know, all positions for the officers' positions, all but one I know for sure is being fulfilled,
Excellent.
assuming Bill fills his out.
I got it right here.
Carrie's not running,
Anybody wants
right?
to sign it?
But Carrie isn't
Oh.
running, right?
I don't know that.
I thought that's what her email said, that she wasn't gonna run.
I don't know if I saw that yet.
Well, it was a
45.
everybody
Is the school-
responds to everybody instead of just you, so I got it.
Are the school board positions on that ballot as well?
School board
that-
positions are on the
Two
school
right.
ballot, which they do at central office. It's everybody, we vote for all the other town school boards too.
But it'll be on this, it won't be on this ballot, there'll be a separate school meeting with,
There's a separate school ballot, you'll be voting on that on town meeting day.
okay, that's what I mean.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Is Larry still with us? He is. He's there. Can we unmute Larry and
He unmutes, I don't unmute.
you can't unmute him?
There you go.
Usually it's unmute.
Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you good, Larry.
I apologize. I'm actually just tested positive. I'm a little bit of a sore throat, so if you have trouble hearing. So,
It's going around.
yeah. I'm glad I got vaccinated, that's for sure.
Worked real well.
So as you know, as we told you when you were here for your meeting, we reached out to some other companies and got some bids from them to match up with yours. And just going through them, we're looking to see what you can do for us. There's a couple things we think we might want or need. Is there a possibility that you would be willing to do a 5-year contract instead of 3?
Sure, we could probably look into that and entertain that part. The reason we did the 3 years, because the utilization of the ARPA funds only goes out for 3 years. So, beyond that, the difference would be all on taxpayers, and we're not for sure, what the per capita may be at that point. If we went out 5 years, we would have to guesstimate that it's gonna go up rather than down, so I guess that's the only objection I think our board would have. I tried to meet with them last night there, but, it wasn't warned properly, and we had to cancel the meeting. So I haven't been able to get in touch with my board members at all about this situation.
Okay. The other thing,
Josh's suggestion.
that we were wondering is, would a 2% increase instead of a 3% increase over the term be doable?
We're trying to maintain the same per capita increase throughout all the towns for this to work. That's the number we came up with. And if we're gonna change those numbers, the increase will have to go up. But again, this whole increase can be covered through the ARPA funds for 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that the taxpayers are, some of the things I've heard personally, not the opinion of the board, but things I've heard personally is that the ARPA funds is not necessarily the way that money could be used in a better way.
Well, it is true to a sense, but it's also not, because it's all pandemic related, and if it was all just Enosburg, we could utilize that, the loss that we had. The loss wasn't so much from last year's, from 2 years ago, when it first happened, there was a huge decrease, and it's carried over for 2 years. But it's operated as, so much percent out of every town, so you can't, the difference to be made up can't be made out of just one budgetary town. It's still up to each town to use those funds, whichever way they utilize it, so yes, that's for sure.
Now, is Enosburg using their ARPA funds to cover the I think his words the other day were mismanagement of funds, of budget,
Of the ambulance
of the
budget.
ambulance's budget? Is Enosburg using their ARPA funds to cover that money that they?
Mismanagement, that's a good word. What was that at the meeting, or is that?
Yeah, that was the words that your head guy there used.
Yeah, so yeah,
Andrew.
there's definitely, you want to call it mismanagement, but it's definitely pandemic related, a lot of the stuff.
Not really, because
We're
it was running in
looking,
the
we
red
want
for
to
5
do
years.
that. I can't give you 100% answer because we're 2 municipalities in Enosburg, and we have to ask the trustees for their share of the ARPA funds for our taxpayers. Yes, we'd like to do that, but I can't answer for the village got a percentage ARPA fund, and the town did.
Right.
But we want to cover 100% of the people, so it has to come from both of the ARPA funds, so we have to solicit the trustees to get that portion. I just asked our town clerk to forward a letter to the trustees to let them be aware of this is going on, because
So
yes, we want to access those funds.
So you haven't actually approached the trustees of the village yet, then?
For Amesburg, no, we have not.
Okay. Kind of feel like that's where that should have started, but
So, I thought he said that you guys had been running in the red for like the last 5 years.
He said that?
yeah.
That's what Andrew Dunsmore. When he was at the meeting here, he said that you guys have been running in the red for about 5 years, which
We've
wouldn't
got
be pandemic
we
related.
had a loan a few years ago from the general fund. I think it was 3 years ago. And probably from there forward, that fund hasn't been paid off. there's been some legal issues, like the Ohio and different things there, but it's not a profit, huge profit, and that kind of reflects to, if you went back, I do have a spreadsheet, BJ, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And, yeah, if you go back to like 2014, you guys are paying, on your per capita, is $40,000. In 2013, it was $37,000. And back in 2017, when the 5-year contract was done, that's when it was lowered. And that shouldn't have happened at that point. That's basically been running on a contract for 5 years, slowly been chipping away. You try to maintain it as much as possible, but last year really inflated it there with, not last year, 2 years ago, 2020, with an inability of the ambulance to operate very well at the March, April, May junction of the year. And then also having to pay employees more to try to retain employees. And I guess that's an ongoing thing, because I'm hearing now that private companies inflating their, getting huge pay increase to all their people, and we're digging from the same pot of people to run these ambulances throughout the county, so that's the reality of it. Is we can't keep going down. At this point, we need to get up to maintain. And there was a huge amount of overtime paid. I was looking over the numbers the other day for this past year, and so if you could get some of those pool of people to $1 or $2 more increase, maybe you can curb some of that overtime down and so try to tamper some of the expenses.
So, I guess, I mean, we're still kind of at the negotiation standpoint here. I think what we're looking at is we'd like for you to take back to the ambulance crew is a 5-year contract, and we'd really like to see max out at 2.5% increase over the 5 years. So if we got another meeting with a number ambulance crew tonight, and we'll if you can work on that and get back to us, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now. That's what we'd like to see.
Okay. Yeah, just on a side note too, I have to take my select board hat off now too. I am a resident of Bakersfield, and I do want to make sure that the ARPA funds do get utilized the proper way. I just hate to find out that they didn't get utilized, and when there's a good chunk of change that you don't have to rely on taxpayers to raise. But I'll take that back to them. We'll have to, we have to do our due diligence and put this across the board for all the contracting towns, and see what the bottom lines look like going forward. I don't think there's an issue with going out 5 years. The rate increase, percentage increase, we'll have to pencil that out.
Okay, I think that's where we are. If you get that information, and let us know.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
And I didn't hear the whole thing, heard part of it before I was getting in there. Are you guys doing an in-town town meeting day?
We have decided to go budget on Australian ballot.
Okay.
So there.
Yeah, so that was part of our discussion last night that our newspaper man picked that up, and we kind of had to stop the meeting. So we couldn't talk about it, but yeah, that was part of our discussion, and I think that's the route that we're probably taking to Venusburg as well.
Yes. It seemed to work pretty good last year. Well, all things.
Just have information meeting ahead of time, and
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything is as it is. So. Excellent.
Okay, appreciate your time.
Thank you,
All right,
Larry.
thanks, Larry.
Have a good evening.
You too.
You too, Larry.
Alright.
Hey Josh, one thing I would just ask is that the select board get with someone from the state, because my understanding is ARPA funds from Bakersfield cannot be used in a contract with Munisburg.
Okay.
And that came from a state representative, but I would ask you to just confirm that.
Yep.
Because I hate to see us get in trouble. We're here to support going to Munisburg. I think the contract you just mentioned, worked well. But I think you need to look closely at that. And then the other question is I would ask them, how come they're not using those ARPA funds to pay their overtime expenses, because that's what they're designed for.
That's kind of what I was asking with, and the fact that they haven't gone to their own town to ask about their ARPA funds yet, that kind of makes me think, let's grab up all the outside money first, and then we'll figure out what to do with ours. And that doesn't sit well with me as a resident of Bakersfield. So I think, like I said, we've got another entity to call here on ambulance services. They're not quite where we need them to be either, but I don't know.
If I could, my questions would be, and I know I showed you one of them. The first one would be, we utilize the ambulance service, we're paying more than we had before, and obviously at one point the increase was a little substantial.
No, actually,
What
we
percent-
went backwards.
Well, my question was, how many trips did Bakerfield's residents, or how many times do we have to use them as residents of Bakersfield?
50 calls this year.
Huh?
50 calls this year.
50 calls in a year?
Yeah,
And then
I
how
think
many
you
of
have
those
that
calls
on
were
there.
COVID related? Because apparently they're relating this back to COVID. So,
I don't think any.
so, you know, if the increase is just
We had
50,
45 calls in 2020 is what he said on here.
Yeah, and from 2013 to 2016, we were paying $37,000 a year. Then in 2017, we dropped down to 31, and that's when they started their 3-year contract at their percentage, which brings us to the present of 32,000.
Munisburg Ambulance Service went through some sort of reconstruction at that period, is that
Yeah,
correct?
they've had management changes a couple of times in there,
But I mean, they dropped.
yeah. And going back to the comment on mismanagement of the budget, I don't think it's a mismanagement, it's just understanding their budget is hard to follow when you look at it. And, where you have a budgeted amount, and you have your monthly expense, it doesn't show what a delta is, in other words, how much have I got left
Yep.
on that line item, you don't see that. So it's kinda hard for the manager, the director of the service, to actually follow that.
Yeah, well, in that, there was some key words that were said in that first meeting that were, obviously Terry picked up on them also, but it was like, when it comes time to talk about this stuff, you're basically put down the shovel butt type of deal. He was digging a pretty good hole all by himself. So hopefully that
Well, it
will.
was pretty much, to me, it sounded like we've been running in the red, and now everybody's been giving this ARPA money, that should help us get back where we need to be,
Yeah, we
and
should
then
take
start
take
fresh.
your exactly. Yep.
And
That was how I understood it.
that
Also.
money's not for Munisburg, it's for Bakersfield. And I think and for them, I just think it's ridiculous to ask for that kind of increase and not even warn people.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously knew this months ago, that they were having some financial issues, and they said nothing to anybody.
And I think the key on that is timing. They know, Larry knows this is when you're building your budget, and if you don't have enough time to shop around,
And their
then
budget runs January to December, I thought originally.
theirs runs the same as ours then.
Yeah,
Okay,
so it's.
so we're
where
both
their
screwed up. When do their taxes are due in July? Is that
I think I don't know if they do twice a year. I don't
Twice a
think
year,
They do
nice.
Munisburg, once, when is it? In the fall or the summer?
It's after Bakersfield's,
after
After,
Bakersfield?
so it's
Okay.
in October.
November 15th.
Bill?
Yeah, thanks. Bill Irwin, resident of Bakersfield, and member of Bakersfield Fire and Rescue, one of the EMTs in town. And I'm just trying to make sure that if the select board was actually going to change the contract to somebody else, that you tell the townspeople that you're gonna do that. Because that is a substantial change. The distance and time between Cambridge, Enosburg, St. Albans, Newport, and the other ambulance services, and those are pretty much the only ones available to us, is significant, and it could be a matter of life or death.
We absolutely agree
And
with
so,
you. Yes.
really would
We
hate
did
to
look
see
into all
a
those.
decision made without the townspeople understanding why that decision was made.
Yep, when we asked for, we have Missisquoi, Cambridge, and Amcare here, along with Enosburg. Those were the local ones that were recommended we look into. Those were all things that we took into account, you know. We understand, because any one of us is just as likely to go down as any other, you know, resident, and we want speedy, quality service.
Right.
You know, absolutely, we wouldn't think about changing without, you know, taxpayer input for sure.
Glad to hear that. Thank you, sir.
Paul?
Paul Stanley, President of Bakersfield, same as Bill. And to add to that, it's not just the citizens, it's our first response crew and fire department. We are used to working with Enosburg Ambulance Service.
Yep.
If there is a change in our transports companies, we're going to, like Bill is saying, the residents are going to have to be aware, but we're going to have to get used to a whole other set of people. And the other thing I think the board needs to consider, going beyond the monetary piece of this, is you got one here. There's 3 residents here in Bakersfield that are employed by Enosburg Ambulance Service.
They have that on their sheet.
Yep.
So.
Paul, we completely agree with you. At no point, I mean, we took all this into consideration. The only analogy that comes to mind right now is I'm not going to the car dealership and paying sticker price.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's what you folks in the select board
Right.
need to look at.
Yep.
But this stuff needs to come into consideration also.
Absolutely.
When you're making your
Yep.
decisions.
Yep. Yes, I'm speaking for myself, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think at this point, I think we could call.
It's not that we don't want to work with Enosburg. The biggest thing that made me go no was the fact that right off the bat, their biggest thing is you've got money from ARPA, and we want you to give that to us to help us because we've been in this hole.
And they haven't even asked their own town or village for the same funds.
So it makes you feel like this increase did not come just because they've got pandemic here. I would like to know how many of their calls have been, like they added equipment that I'm not sure they really needed to add because of the
Well, there's a person
COVID.
sitting right here that could probably tell you if it was needed equipment or not.
well, they don't list
They don't list it.
exactly what
Some of the
they
equipment, with
purchased.
the N95, the face mask.
Yeah, the mask. Yep.
Cleaning wipes, the sprayer,
Yep.
they have to spray the ambulance with if we take.
After every use,
patients after a call. There was some specialty equipment that.
And they didn't get any state funding for any of that because these small businesses around here got tons of money for that.
I think
There was some
that's.
VCLT.
Yeah.
I think you just answered that question right there. They were small businesses where this is a town-owned entity.
I'll guarantee you there was state funding
They're-
for most of that
yeah,
equipment
state's
that
throwing money
was.
at everything, but it was
They
coming
have
out of
not
our
done
pockets
any
either way.
EAP grant. The firefighter grants they have not done in the last 3 years.
They haven't.
So,
and I think the other equipment that they said that they added was the infant transport.
Yes, well, it was just, yeah, it's basically it allows us to strap an infant down to the stretcher and do it safely. It's like a car seat,
Okay.
only it's not a car seat, it's just a molded piece of plastic that allows them to hook them in safely. So it's required by state and federal requirements that are transport individuals.
Okay.
So they bought, yes, they did buy one of those kits.
John, can
Yes.
I have you call
But again,
Nathan
not
and see
pandemic
if you can get
related.
him lined up with the,
Yes.
before we get Nathan on here, does anybody have any suggestions on what we would like to talk Cambridge to?
Well,
I mean-
Cambridge started out with a budget of $57,285.
Right, so I mean,
They've gotta come a long ways.
and I mean, do we tell them right up front?
I think
Look,
that's.
he's gotta come down 20,000
I
for
think
you
that's
in our
the-
wheelhouse?
Unless we
Well,
wanna
let's see
spend the
what
whole evening here
what he
discussing it,
wants
yeah.
to say to us.
Okay,
But
Alright.
one of the questions I do wanna ask him is,
what do they
how
have better
how often is someone else covering their calls?
than, I see you've been talking with Terry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I wanna know
Yeah.
if that's a true statement, or,
I wouldn't doubt it,
because
Ter-
I'm surprised
They
in,
also operate in a different district.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
I'm surprised in that because they seem to have a pretty active,
Different medical.
But they have a lot more people though.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot more people on their ambulance too.
But it's a moot point. Even if they have people that fill in for them or answer the calls for them, if they can't come down $20,000, we're not gonna consider them anyhow.
No, I know, they wanted
Please,
to talk to us. We
all of
didn't
you,
ask to talk to
please
them.
listen in to what he has to say, because one of the questions I'm going to ask is, what are the services that you offer above and beyond what Enosburg can offer? And I don't have that knowledge set, you guys do. So if Todd, he says, we can do this, I'm gonna look at you, and if you're shaking your head no, you're my professional opinion at this point, that's,
Don't be afraid to call BS when you see it.
yeah. I don't have any clue. This is not anywhere near, if he was talking trees, I'd be like, all right, we can talk, but, you know,
We're in the same boat.
yeah, there's a bunch of us here in that boat, we'd be all right there.
Is he on?
Not yet, John is out there, on the phone with him, getting him the login information, so
Oh, okay.
same thing he had to do with Larry. We do,
No Carolyn Bronze, did she cancel?
I haven't seen,
She did not cancel, but she.
right there, Pat's
Oh,
here
you're
to fill in.
Carolyn?
Pass you. Pass
Well, you look cute, Carolyn. Well, let's move on to him then.
We can do that while we're waiting, yep,
Instead of
absolutely.
making him sit here,
Yep.
we can move on and.
Come on, right up here, Pat, where there's a nice speaker here for you.
Speaker.
That's the speaker?
Yeah.
Yep, or a microphone, sorry.
I
Her
can't play with it while I'm
microphone,
sitting
yeah.
here nervous. I'm sitting.
You're sitting.
Good evening, I'm Pat Evans. I'm chairman of the Bakersfield Conservation Commission. And we'd like to see the select board once in a while. It's been about a quarter since we've seen you. We had 3 items that we wanted to bring up to your attention. One of which is, almost 2 of which is, we had a tradition of planning winter events at the conservation line. We put on baked cookies, have an unusual film about conservation. You wouldn't apt to see in ordinary media, whether it was whales or that sort of thing. Families could come to. We had tried, they were pretty modest. We tried some snowshoeing events around the tree plantations and they were lightly attended, but we want to keep in that business now too. And we were asking, since we've got this nice new property that end of town, if we could have your permission to plan a snowshoeing event at the gravel pit land. This would be in the end of February during vacation. 2 things actually. We'd like to plan something like that. We don't get many people. We'd also like to get permission before we do something like that to take a look at it ourselves to see what a good safe place to be would be, maybe knock out a trail.
I don't foresee any problem with that. I enjoy hiking through there myself in November. Mac would be able to give you a good location.
Right.
Now, I'm not sure, there's a lot of fields up there that could be used. There's also it's a fairly narrow strip of wood line there also
Yeah.
that could be used. But I don't foresee there being any issue with it. Does anybody else on the board see any issue?
Liability issue in the
That's the
mine,
only thing I would ask too.
in the mined area itself.
So we would be talking in the green portions only, staying out of,
Well, we would have anticipated that, yeah. We have no intention of.
There's a road through it, I don't see a problem using that, but we can't have people
No,
trying to go up and
No.
down the mined areas.
yeah, well, we hadn't planned on doing that, I didn't say that specifically, but yeah, we would keep away from that for sure. Yeah.
I'll talk to you soon.
So you usually do it over here?
Well, we've done the tree
Nathan will be right with
plantations.
you.
I haven't made
taking,
okay.
finishing up with the
any of
Bakersfield
the
Conservation
trees, but
Committee.
usually Larry's or
Put them on
Foots, sort of thing. Have a little hot chocolate afterwards, sort of thing. Yeah. Open to the public.
And the other thing that you'd,
Okay, well, two other things. One of which is that very same property, beautiful as it is, we would like to pursue investigating, and we'd like it with your blessing, considering it a potential town forest, not the gravel part. We don't want anything to do with the, as you call it, the mining area, or its eventual expansion, those parts of it, but the rest of it is a town forest. I think you
what is
probably.
our setback from the field? I don't believe it's 100 yards.
I'm not sure if the
And
permit
it's-
will allow for that though.
The permit won't?
I don't know, I'd have to look at it.
Okay.
I would
I
tend
was
to
gonna say, that probably needs some investigating.
And we'd
Well,
have
that's
to
what-
Don't
review,
think we
we'd
can
have to
answer
review
that
the
tonight.
Act 250 permit itself.
Yeah, well, right now it seems that we've looked at it and it just seems to be for the mining of the gravel pit, but yeah, there'd have to be probably an amendment, I presume, not that I know this business, but. We've been thinking about town forest for a long time. It's there, it wouldn't cost anything. We would be investigating, of course, probably try to get some support, see if the town would be interested in that sort of thing. But also, what the uses would be for it. We would have the help of the Franklin County Forester, Nancy Patch, there'd be woodlot management, those sorts of things that we'd have to investigate. We'd also have to investigate, do we have to put a road in, for instance? We're not gonna go anywhere near the gravel pit, then we have to have some other access. We,
Do
not you,
we-
but-
I think,
how many acres of wooded property are actually there?
I don't know, I know the whole thing's 104 acres or so. But looking at a picture of it, it must be about 50-50, or maybe 60-40, 40.
Well, I think that
Non-wooded.
encompasses everything back out to Egypt Road, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think you're probably looking at, God, I would say you'd be hard pressed to get 20 acres of woods there.
Really?
Yeah, it's a pretty narrow strip, really.
Well,
From the fields up over that ridge,
Yeah.
there's not much,
well,
and it's not. Yeah, it's steep. It's mountain goat country.
well, town forest wouldn't be good for anything else now, would it? In any case, we're just asking to look into it.
Mhm.
Come back to you, see what we find out. See, we're gonna talk to Nancy, we'll talk to some other people and say, if we have a town forest and we've been thinking about it for a long time, and this were the potential site, what do we need to do? And come back at a much later date, probably.
yeah.
But only with your blessing. If you don't want us to go near the place, that's your business, of course, but, yeah.
First things first, we'd have to review the Act 250 permit to see if it's
Mhm.
even
Yeah.
feasible.
Yeah.
There was some specific verbiage about the use of the property in that permit.
Well, if you make application for a permit and you decide for another use, can it not be amended?
Not easily. They're pretty strict on that mining permit.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't section out the mining part and say, we got permission for
We
this.
can't
just-"
subdivide that, no, not easily. Part of it, for instance, was specifically set up and reserved for a deer bedding area.
Saw that, yeah.
Mhm. And
Okay.
whether or not the permit will allow hiking through there, I don't, I'd have to read it, Pat,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
I read it once, but it was years ago.
Yeah, we've been looking at it lately, without a fine tooth comb, just looking at the maps and
Yep.
what have you.
So it needs research on both ends, ours and yours.
Yeah.
I mean, the wetlands, as long as you're not taking vehicles through that, but we can't even,
Are there wetlands in the part we're talking about the southern end of the whole property there, I think most of it.
there are specified wetlands.
Oh, I
yeah.
guess I've been up there, I guess I've seen a pond or something up there.
Most of what is in the southland.
Yep.
Okay.
There's some sedges
I guess you have no
that are
objection.
protected in there.
You have-
I'm serious. There are some sedges in there on the southern edge that are protected.
Yeah.
We can't do a darn thing in that area.
Is it because it's not endangered, but some kind of, It's
a
a
protected,
wetland.
It's a protected
it's a
grass.
wetland, okay,
sedge.
okay, yeah. Mhm.
There are some other things in there that I, for the life of me, I can't remember right now.
Yeah.
I'd have to review it again.
Yeah. Well, would you have any objection to us planning it, looking at it, thinking about it?
No.
Okay, and we'd like your input, of course, obviously you'll have something to say about it, but for sure, and then that's all, we just like to look at it a little further than we have,
I just
see what it would take.
can't in clear conscience say, yeah, go ahead and do it.
Right.
I can't do that.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, I'll take that as an affirmative. I'll move on to the last one, because you guys have busy stuff to take care of, and stuff to take, the third thing is apart from that, and that's the barn over here. Now, we're not asking for you to do anything, except give us advice. The barn sits on the town, we call the town park, next to the cemetery park. And, I think we had some money put into it to stabilize it, but what do we do with it, is the question. What do you think? Now, right now, we submitted a paper to you describing, I think Tammy had, did you ever get a copy of that?
I didn't.
Didn't pass it on? Okay, well, those two items. Among our members, we sort of said, well, the Vermont Land Preservation said, no, it's nothing. It isn't worth anything. Well, that's not true. When we look at the documents from the Vermont, whatever it is, I'm so good at this, conservation,
Historical preservation.
no, actually, this is from the original easement came out from the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, and they noted that the buildings are they felt eligible. The barn is eligible for National Historic Places in Vermont. It isn't there yet, but it is an old building. You all know it. There have been a couple of controversial ideas about it. One of which says it was built in the 1890s, but when you look at some of the construction, you got to kind of wonder, because it was. I'm getting rambling now. This is not fact, but I remember there was a big article in Messenger maybe 20 years ago about training Civil War troops, and there was a barn that they referred to at the town, right about where the park is there, and we're wondering if that's it. People looked at the boards and said they're not milled. It's all tenon, like barn construction, that sort of thing. Anyway, so. But if you've got any ideas what we can do about it, we can't get a grant from the land preservation people because it's not agricultural. It's not agricultural enough. They turned us down. I think that's where the confusion in our mind was. That we thought, well, the barn has no value. Well, that's not what they said. What they said was that we can't value this property because we only value agricultural preservation.
Correct me if I was wrong, but that all three of those buildings originally were together and utilized for the same thing. That the Hearst House and the other two buildings were to store the carriage and to house the horses in.
I don't think so. Right now,
No, I think that's true. That's what I remember being told.
Yeah.
but the property line is right there before the Hearst House. It's like in a separate property. This we gathered as a part of the old beautiful house that had been there at one time.
The old Bachman estate.
The
Yeah,
Bachman's
Bachman.
house?
Yeah. Some of the pictures of that place were fantastic back 100 years ago.
What is it?
So what was that?
Ted owned that barn?
What was that when it originally? Was that a place for students to live when the Brigham was there, or the Bachman estate, or was that?
No, it was a doctor's office. It was a Dr. Abernathy?
Yeah, that
Is
sounds
what
right.
it-
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
That sounds right.
Okay.
I have a picture.
I'm just trying to think of what it could have been used for.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we had the old stage house way down, and a couple other houses throughout town that we know were used for hotels or other things.
But the barn, my house had a barn that burned down just before we bought it. And the garage, interestingly enough, and I heard this somewhere, and you can refute it if you want to, but I heard that was the place to store a Stanley steamer years ago. First, the only Stanley steamer, I guess, probably in Bakersfield, but anyway. But I thought those buildings were connected to the house. They were, so, but, yeah.
He owned the building, but
Okay, he let, who knows?
before that, it could
Yeah.
have.
Who's yet, those buildings are older than,
I think so.
I
yeah.
wonder if the
Well,
property
the
line got
garage isn't
changed
that old,
when
but the
Yeah, who knows where the property line originally was. My grandfather told me that those all went with the Hearst house.
That's what I understood.
Okay, well,
But
and they may
I
have,
have no
they may
proof
have, it's true.
of that, just other than my
I
grandfather's
think
story.
Ted used to
both,
park in
are
there.
both properties now owned by
He
the
did, didn't
town?
he? Yeah,
Yes.
he used to park his truck in there.
Yeah. If you got any ideas, let us know. If you think that there's something we're missing here about what to do with
The
it.
garage open one, could you put, dress it up and put a picnic table in there for rainy days?
That's a thought.
What about a
Couple
creamy
picnic
stand?
tables.
I don't know why we haven't thought of
Creamy
that sooner.
stand.
No, jeez.
Then you gotta run
There goes your ambulance.
electricity.
And there you go, right there, you make some money for all
I'm sure
these
that's already
projects.
thought of.
The creamy stand?
No, put a couple picnic
I go
tables.
for a liquor store. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. But in any case,
Now we're talking.
one final thing I forgot to mention, I wanted to start with first, was thank you very much, Mac and his crew, for taking care of the tree on the trail. We'd asked you to, if you could see it was done. Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent.
I guess, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
All
We'll
right.
think about uses for the barn.
Get a barrel of mead and some old trestle tables
I
and
don't
serve
see a
the hill.
problem. I know. If I live in this neighborhood, I'm not too sure.
Poker on Friday night.
All right. So we can.
We have Nathan ready to go.
Nathan is ready to go.
Okay.
All right. Hey Nathan, how's it going?
It's going very well itself.
Pretty good. Pretty good.